straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here.
Hi, I'm Rupha Ramani and you're watching First Sports. Let's get started. Hi, good evening. We are bringing you a wide spectrum of stories on the show today, starting with the carnage at Cape Town. Carnage for the batters, that is. Indian skipper Rohit Sharma was visibly upset. We'll tell you why. There were a few positives for India from the series and some to go back and reflect on too. We'll get you all of that in just a bit. Speaking of carnage, Oscar Pistorius, who killed his girlfriend 11 years ago, is a free man today. As in sports, as it is in life, you always get second chances, but should Oscar Pistorius. And oscillating to another kind of carnage, that by a 13-year-old, yes, the one who defeated the computer itself, the boy who beat Tetris. But we tell you the story of child prodigies. That is no more an anomaly. It's not a one-time occurrence. Is it the new normal? All of that on the show today. But first, let's look at all the headlines from around the world on Sports 360. We'll start with tennis. Number 1 seed Aryna Sabalenka cruised into the Brisbane International semi-final. She defeated 5th seeded Daria Kasatkina 6-1, 6-4 in straight sets. This is Sabalenka's 14th straight win on Australian soil. She will next face number 8 seed Victoria Azarenka. In football, Barcelona beat Las Palmas 2-1 in yesterday's La Liga match. Both teams were tied 1-1 in the first half. Ilkay Gundogan scored on a penalty 2 minutes into second half injury time to seal the win for Barcelona. Striker Kylian Mbappe has reconfirmed that he will not be extending his contract with current club Paris Saint-Germain. However, Mbappe says that he's not made the decision on which team he will join in the future. As per reports, Real Madrid and Liverpool are keen on signing the 25-year-old. Mbappe's contract with PSG expires at the end of the season. Juventus thrashed Salernitana 6-1 in a Coppa Italia knockout match yesterday. Salernitana started off strong with a goal in the very first minute. Then Juventus piled on 6 goals starting from the 12th minute till full time. With the win, Juventus have entered the Coppa Italia quarter-final. And the Olympic Aquatic Centre at the Paris 2024 Games will completely run on renewable energy. Olympic organizers say that the swimming pool's roof is covered with over 4,000 solar panels. They are confident that the panels will generate enough electricity to power and heat the aquatic centre. The swimming pool is one of the most expensive structures at the Paris Olympics, with an estimated cost of close to $200 million. Now, the final frontier, South Africa, for an Indian cricket team continues to be a dream, but at least the scorelines of the 2 test series won't read as a whitewash. There was no possibility of that, with the pitch behaving the way it did and batters floundering on it from day 1 to, well, half of day 2. So what are the takeaways or our talking points from this very short test series between India and South Africa? The first one has to be Jasprit Bumrah. If 2022 was the year of pain, anguish and recovery, 2023 is definitely the year when Bumrah would have to put all his months of hard work to test. A year away from competitive cricket is daunting to any player. Ask Rafa Nadal. There are nerves and you don't know how the body will hold up, how the mind will take charge. There are so many questions that will have to be answered. I think that's quite been the story of Jasprit Bumrah. His mind has always overcome every challenge. And whether that's mentally, emotionally or physically, right from the time he started encountering them. As a kid losing his father and overcoming all odds, to a father himself now, setting an example for many in his team to follow. And that persona of being a father figure or a mentor to the youngsters in the team is evident. We spoke earlier about how Mohammad Siraj was reaping the benefits of Jasprit Bumrah, putting the pressure up to hold up one end. At the post-match interview, that's what Siraj said. He, in fact, was talking about Bumrah, and when Bumrah had to go over to translate what Siraj said in Hindi to English, that's exactly what happened. Siraj spoke about how Bumrah in particular would always guide him, assessing new pitches quickly and give him inputs. And Bumrah, while translating that, selflessly converted the I to we. That's what a true leader sounds like, and rightfully someone who was adjudged player of the series. In the second innings, Bumrah was unplayable. He was accurate and diligent at the start, and the early breakthroughs unleashed the more fiery Bumrah that we all are so familiar with. He was intimidating the batters and setting them up nicely to falter and second-guess their own intentions. In fact, Rohit Sharma, right after that match, when asked about the bowling unit, said, and I quote, "Very special, something you don't get to see very often. We spoke about keeping things simple, and that's what happened. The pitch did the rest." Lot of credit to Siraj Bumrah and, of course, Mukesh and Prasidh. Everyone remembers the last few months, especially for Indian cricketers. It has been heartbreaking. And recently, a lot was thought and contemplated over some of the messages that Bumrah was giving through his social media handles prior to the Indian Premier League auction. But it was nice to see him all smiles, having put that face behind him, mentoring the kids around him and showing us that you don't really need to be the captain or have that tag to be a leader. From the heartening to the more concerning takeaways. Does the Indian side have the tenacity or the patience, especially in the batting department? That is something that showed a bit of a lack of depth, a void somewhere there. I know comparisons with the likes of Ajinkya Rahane, Cheteshwar Pujara, Murli Vijay, the predecessors in some sense, is unfair. But there is a certain rigor and adaptation that comes with Test cricket, and that seemed to be missing amongst not just some of the senior hands like Shreyas Iyer, who looked a little bit out of sorts in both Tests, but some of the youngsters too, like Yashasvi Jaiswal or Shubman Gill. Now don't get me wrong, they are excellent exponents of the shorter formats. They can dismantle any attack single-handedly, but Test cricket is still something they are a while away from being good at, especially in challenging conditions such as what South Africa has to offer. The one positive was Jaiswal in the slip cordon, absolutely sharp. He was alert and pouched or stopped just about anything that came in his arc. Some stunning catches courtesy the youngster. And on to the third takeaway, and this one is from Cape Town in particular. The match lasted under 2 days, 107 overs or about. Wickets tumbled in heaps. Batting application was near to nothing, barring probably Virat Kohli for India, maybe even Rohit Sharma briefly, along with, of course, Aiden Markram, who came up with a scintillating knock in the last day. And even though not much was spoken about the way the pitch behaved, it was not lost on the Indian skipper, who was pretty scathing after the match. He said, and I quote, "I honestly don't mind playing on pitches like this, as long as everyone keeps their mouth shut in India and don't talk too much about Indian pitches. Honestly, when you are put up against a challenge like that, you come and face it. That's what happens in India. But in India, on day one, if the pitch starts turning, people start talking about puff of dust. And that the fact that there's so much crack there on the pitch. So there are things that the ICC, the match referees, they need to look into and start rating pitches based on what they see, not based on the countries. I think that's quite important." Now, it was a sentiment that was shared by the South African coach Shukri Conrad as well.
"I don't know what people want me to say. You only need to look at the scores. 1.5-day test match, you need to look at how they chased 80. Sad state when you need more luck than skill. All the ethics and values of Test cricket goes out of the window."
Now, the reason Rohit Sharma particularly pointed fingers at the ICC or the International Cricket Council there was because they had rated the ODI World Cup final pitch to be average. A pitch where we saw 100 being scored by an Aussie cricketer. Now, there have been many issues raised when the ball would start turning from day one on Indian pitches, like he's mentioned, or got over in 2 days. Now, it's happened only twice in India. That was once in 2021 when India played England in Ahmedabad, and of course in Bengaluru in 2018 when India played Afghanistan. Since the year 2000, it's happened 3 times over in South Africa, where a test match has gotten over within 2 days, and twice in Cape Town itself. But Rohit Sharma's larger plea is to be fair. Like he said at the post-match press conference, that testing and challenging conditions are always welcome, but that ICC should be fair in judging and rating pitches uniformly, whether it was the pitch in Ahmedabad or the one in Cape Town. The pitches must be rated on whether there is enough in there for everyone, a batter, a pace bowler and a spinner, and not be biased in their assessment. Seems fair enough. For now, though, the coming months, the challenge shifts back to T20 cricket as the series against Afghanistan approaches. And with reports suggesting that Kohli and Rohit have shown their intent in pursuing T20 cricket, things will get interesting. Now, the Indian cricket team might have had a mixed last year. One Indian doubles pair had a superb 2023. They are set to receive the most prestigious award for sporting excellence, and we managed to catch up with world number 2 badminton doubles pair Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty to reflect on the fantastic year they've had. They were candid, spoke about practically being married to each other, being the Nadal to the Federer to one another, and much more. Here's a sneak peek. I want to ask you, what is the most difficult aspect of playing doubles?
You're married to your partner, so he's very important.
I read somewhere that one of you said you both are like the Nadal and Federer together.
Chirag is Nadal because of his aggression.
One of you saying that you're not the same duo who played Tokyo.
Yeah, I think our approach is a lot different as compared to Tokyo. I think we've become a lot more, obviously we've become a lot better on court.
Who's the calmer of the two?
Satvik.
I think we would have arrived at this point quite predictably, yes. Who's more competitive? Is it going to be Chirag? No, come on. I think both of you are, no?
Slightly Chirag, maybe.
Yes, don't forget to catch that interview dropping in on the 8th of January. That's coming Monday. Now, you probably know about the boy who lived, Harry Potter. He survived and eventually beat the undefeatable Voldemort. A child did what most adults couldn't. Now, this comes to mind because recently, a similar fantasy played out in the world of sports when the impossible game finally met its match. In this teenager, a 13-year-old prodigy from Oklahoma, Willis Gibson. He's beaten Tetris, the so-called endless game, and millennials across the world, of course, are feeling vindicated. And there is this personal sense of victory in this. Tetris is a simple game. The user has to manipulate falling blocks of varying shapes, which have to be fit together to create solid rows. Sounds pretty simple, right? But I never said it was easy. And that's what makes it hugely popular. It was invented about 4 decades ago. It was designed in 1984 by a Soviet engineer. Then Nintendo, the gaming company, picked it up in 1989. Soon it became a global sensation. Its mobile version has been sold 100 million times, making it the 3rd best-selling video game of all. And today there are over 200 variants of this. That's a world record. Tetris has a massive community of players too. They compete in world championships. All of them are drawn in by the game's simplicity. But as the level goes up, the blocks fall faster, the players get overwhelmed. And Tetris always wins. Except that one time in 2021 when artificial intelligence defeated it, because losing is not in Tetris's DNA, quite literally. In technical terms, Tetris was not designed to be won. So how did the teenager do it? Let me show you.
Oh my God! Oh.
The excitement is quite palpable. Gibson played the game for 38 minutes and reached level 157. At this point, the screen froze, meaning the game crashed, which is why leading up to it, you see the level reader glitch. From numbers to alphabets, that's because of the limitations in Tetris' coding. When a player achieves scores that are so high, the game's memory bank overloads and Tetris simply becomes unplayable. Now, Gibson is the first human to do this, and this is of massive importance. That's the narrative I want to delve on, that it goes beyond the realm of just this game. It's a showcase of the big picture. It proves yet again that the future has arrived, that this sporting world now belongs to child prodigies, and we are all just living in it, in theirs. The new crop is growing the world over. I'll give you another example. Just look at Luke Littler, a 16-year-old dart prodigy from the UK. He comes from a family of darts fanatics, and he has been playing the game since he was 18 months old. But recently, he saw a meteoric rise. He made it to the nail-biting finale of the World Darts Championship this week, a championship where the average age of a winner is 38 years old. Now, Littler was defeated by Luke Humphreys, the world number 1, but even so, Littler was the real star of the tournament, and that's not all. No game is swamped with prodigies like chess, many of whom come from India, like the 18-year-old R. Pragyananda. He's the OG, but others followed closely, like Gukesh, Arjun Erigesi, and Nihal Sareen. Or look at skateboarding. It is not only attracting young players, but many young female athletes. Take Mazel Paris Aligado, for instance. She's a 9-year-old skateboarder from the Philippines. Last year, she made history at the Asian Games in China. She became the competition's youngest ever participant, making it to the finals. Then there is 13-year-old Momiji Nishiya of Japan. In 2021, she made history by becoming the first Olympic champion in the women's street skateboarding competition and the 5th youngest gold medalist in Olympic history. Frankly, the list is endless, and this is exciting. It is always fascinating to see young people achieve the very best, which made German tennis legend Steffi Graf or Romanian gymnast Nadia Comaneci such hits. Prodigies are a cause for inspiration, of hope that can inspire athletes the world over. So such achievements have reignited the age-old debate about age restrictions at global sporting events, such as the Olympics. But there is a flip side too. Breaking the ceiling at a very young age brings with it something more than just pressure. Sports is a field that particularly deals with concerns of longevity. There is a shelf life for athletes. Like any career, it's about pacing yourself to hit the last stretch with as much steam. And many child prodigies face the possibility of burnout stress and all the trappings that come with it. But having realized dreams also far too earlier than most others, this is something that comes with it. But with so many child prodigies cropping up, maybe the positive way to look at it would be that the others around them, the support system, will also grow and develop a way to nurture these geniuses and preserve their talent and sanity in a rat race that is the world of sport. Our next story revolves around a fallen sports person, Oscar Pistorius, who is out of jail now. He's a free man after 11 years of legal turmoil. For those who can't quite recollect, here's a quick backgrounder. Pistorius was a former Paralympian gold medalist, also nicknamed the Blade Runner, for his carbon fiber prosthetic legs. Yes, a double amputee who won gold 6 times. Pistorius was born without calf bones. He also qualified for the Olympics wearing prosthetic blades. But his life took a tragic turn. He is now a convicted murderer who killed his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp, on Valentine's Day 2013. What could possibly be in store for someone who was considered a hero once? Pistorius fought all odds to compete on the world stage, only to succumb and fail.
Oscar Pistorius, once a celebrated sports figure, altered his life's course on Valentine's Day in the year 2013. Pistorius shot his girlfriend multiple times through a toilet door. He was convicted of murder and given a 13-year, 5-month jail sentence. Today, he's a free man. He's out on parole and is expected to live in Pretoria in South Africa. Until his sentence expires in December 2029, he will be kept under observation. Parole conditions require him to attend mandatory programs, be at home at particular hours of the day, avoid drugs and alcohol, and of course, he's banned from conducting any media interviews. Further, he'll be routinely monitored by an official. Any violation could again send him back to prison. His trial started in 2013 and it caught global attention back then, from retching in the courtroom to hearing the testimonies of 40 witnesses. The proceedings were long drawn out and took its due course. But his release raises questions of whether justice served is always justice delivered. Pistorius claims he mistook Steenkamp for an intruder, hence he brazenly fired multiple rounds in self-defense. But what about the victim whose future was taken away at 29, or the lasting trauma Steenkamp's family will have to endure? Back in March 2023, during his parole hearing, here's what her lawyer had to say.
First of all, it's a very traumatic experience, as you can imagine. It's painful. June has to face Oscar Pistorius again this morning. He's the killer of her daughter. For them, it's a life sentence. He's eligible to be considered for placement on parole. They don't feel that he should be released. They feel that he has shown no remorse. He's not rehabilitated, because if he had been, he would have come clean and told the true story of what happened that night. The Supreme Court of Appeal found that he hasn't divulged everything that happened that night, and that's the position that they also hold.
Pistorius was initially denied parole and only got it on November 24th. South African officials believe he deserves a second chance.
According to South African law, Oscar Pistorius was charged. He went through trial and he was committed into the penitentiary services. And now, like any other prisoner, he has qualified for parole. and he's receiving parole and he's going out on parole. I think that is what we call justice, and it's punitive justice. And we also believe in rehabilitative justice. He has ticked all the necessary boxes. And we can only wish and hope that Oscar Pistorius will come out a better human being and he'll be able to help others.
Steenkamp's mother still vehemently opposes his version of the story. And like the grieving family, many critics have slammed the decision of granting parole. Because he's had a bit of a run-in with violent behavior in the past. In 2009, he assaulted a 19-year-old woman at a party. He spent a night in jail, but that incident was swept under the carpet. Even weeks before he shot his own girlfriend, he accidentally used a gun at a restaurant in Johannesburg. It's tough to take Oscar's side, and this is purely from an objective view. Taking any life is a crime. According to reports, he hasn't divulged anything that's happened that night, which makes the assessment of his psyche more difficult. His past is also not helpful. So we ask, are sporting accolades and fighting the odds and struggling to triumph enough to earn the respect or the sympathy? No. At the same time, there is that question of giving everyone a second chance to reform, to change. That's what the court is trying to say. For Oscar Pistorius, the journey hereon to survive and walk along a crowd that will spite him is going to be the bigger challenge than staying behind bars. How he fights the perceptions and hatred to turn over a new leaf will be most difficult. More difficult than his journey from just a double amputee to becoming the Blade Runner, a Paralympic gold medalist.
On to last serve. Now, before we wrap up today, we'll bring you this. David Warner finally breathed a sigh of relief. You want to know why? Well, he took to his social media with this very emotional message.
Hi everyone, I am pleased and relieved that I've got my baggie back in my hands. Any cricketer knows how special their cap is, and I'll cherish this for the rest of my life. I'm very grateful to all those involved in locating it, the Qantas team, the freight company, the hotel and our own team management. It's a load off my shoulders going into the last couple of days. Really appreciate it, so thank you all.
We're very happy for you, David Warner. Of course, there were a lot of memes wondering if he misplaced it himself, but no, we'll leave it to another day. We're happy that he found his very cherished baggy green. But that does it here on First Sports. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again on Monday.